In this video, we are going to talk about condition statements. Now, if you want to write more sophisticated programs with R, you will need to control the flow and order of execution in your code. One way to do this is to make the execution of certain sections of a code dependent on condition. In this video, we are going to see how we can lay down the condition. We will start our session with understanding the basic if statement. Now, once we understand the structure of basic if statement, then we will move ahead and use if-else statement structure, wherein we can able to use two conditions. Now let us start our video by if statement. This is how the if statement structure looks like. If statement is the key to controlling exactly which operations are carried out in a given chunk of code. For example, if is a keyword in R. This is a keyword that you will have to use if you want to use the if statement, followed by a condition. This is a condition, and this condition has to be fulfilled if you want to execute the code that sits into these two braces. This is how the structure of if statement looks like. Now, if the condition is satisfied, then the code within the chunk of curly braces will get executed. And if the condition is not satisfied, then R will skip the code between the braces. Okay, now let's take a simple example. For example, here the condition is num should be negative, less than 0. And if the num is less than 0, then R will multiply the num with -1 and make it positive. If the num is not less than 0, then R will not going to execute the code within these braces and will give the num as it is. Now here is another example. If num is -2, then this condition is satisfied. Condition is true, and that's why it will going to multiply the num with -1 and make the number positive. In this case, the num is 4, that means condition is false, and it is not going to execute the code within the braces here, this code, and therefore it will keep num value as it is, which is 4. Now let's see how we can able to construct the if statement in R. Let's open the R session. Now I've opened the R session here. I've created the object myVec. It's a simple vector with a bunch of numbers. And I've created a matrix called mymat, which is a matrix of 5 rows and 2 columns. And it is a column filled matrix. So if I run this, then you can see that this is a myVec, a simple vector, and this is a matrix object. Now I am going to create the if statement. As we saw that the if statement consists of condition, so this is my condition, and what my condition says, it has one symbol over here that you can see. Now these two vertical lines that you see depicts OR statement. OR statement has two conditions. One condition sits on left hand side and the other condition sits on right hand side of the symbol. Let's first understand how the OR logic works. So let's see how the OR logic works. So these are the two vertical lines that you saw, and on the left hand side is condition 1, on the right hand side is condition 2. Now if condition 1 is true and condition 2 is, let's say, comes out as false, then the OR logic will give you the output as true. And if I change this outcome to condition 2 as true and condition 1 as false, OR logic will still going to give me output as true. That means if any of these two conditions happens to be true, then OR will going to give me the output as true. Now if the condition 1 is false and condition 2 is false, then OR will going to give me output as false. Remember, in order to get the output as false, you will have to have both the conditions false. And naturally, if both the conditions are true, then of course OR will going to give me output as true. So this is how the OR logic works. Let's go back to the code and let's check how the condition is derived. Now here I am taking away 1 from my vector and I am comparing the result with 9, and on condition 2 I have already created a matrix, 2 by 5 matrix, and I am using my vector elements as an element of the matrix, and I am taking out the element from second row and first column, and I am checking that element to 6. So if I want to now take out the condition on left hand side of the OR statement, then you can see that this condition outcome is false, because if I take out 1 from all the elements of my vec, still there is no element in my vec vector which has a value more than 9, and that's why it has thrown false as an output. Now let's see the condition 2 of the OR statement. If I execute condition 2 of the OR statement, then it is giving me outcome as true, because there is one element belonging to second row and first column which has a value less than or equal to 6, and that's why it is giving me the outcome as true. Now as we understood from the OR logic, if one condition is false, another is true, then the output of the OR logic is true. So let me go back to the if statement. Now the outcome of this entire condition is true, and then the code within the braces will get executed. Now let me execute this if command. Now as you can see, because the condition is satisfied, it executes the code within the braces. by typing the condition satisfied string, and then it is copying mywake into new.mywake object, and then it is using sequence command, sequence function, and then it is creating a list called mylist, with the first element of the list is new.mywake and the second element of the list is my matrix, but here each element of the my matrix is now getting added by 0.5. It is then showing me this string. A list with 2 numbers now exists, and finally it is populating the my list, which has 2 elements. The first element is called AA and the second element is called BB. So this is how the if statement gets executed after the condition is fulfilled. Now let's move ahead in the video and let's check how we can use if else statement. So far we have seen the if statement. That means if the condition is satisfied, then the plan A will get executed. Now if I want to use another condition, that means if the condition of this if statement is not satisfied, then I would like to put another condition, and that condition can be represented with else statement. So in this case, if this condition is true, then plan A will get executed. Else, if this condition is false, then plan B will get executed. So I have 2 branches over here. Branch A will be if the condition is true, and branch B if the condition is false. And I can able to represent these 2 branches with the help of if else statement. Let's see this concept with the example. Now here I am using num and I am initiating num with -2, and here is the condition for the if statement. Now in this case this condition is satisfied, so the output will be num is negative and num will be multiplied by a negative number. So in this case this chunk of code gets executed. But have a look at another example. In this example, the num is initiated to 4. That means this condition is now not satisfied. So it will now go to the else part of the statement, and the else part of the statement will get executed. Num is positive, and it will then square it up and it will show me the output, which is 16. So in first statement the condition is true and it executed the code chunk below the if statement, and in this case the condition is false, so it has directly come to the else part of the code chunk, and the code chunk represented within the else braces gets executed. So this is how the if else statement is used. Now let us go back to our code and let us use the else part of the if statement. Now I appended the if logic with the else part. Now let's run this code chunk. Now in this case, as you see that the first condition is false. and because the first condition is false, R skips the code chunk within the braces of if statement and R starts executing the else part of the code. In the else part of the code, the condition is not satisfied being populated, and the mymat matrix is getting transposed with the help of T function, and it's now stored in a new matrix called new.mymat. And a new list is created, mylist, in which the AA belongs to a new vector, the transpose vector new.mymat, and BB are nothing but the 10 random numbers with normal distribution. And if I print my list, this is how the list looks like. The first part of the list is simply a transpose of the matrix, and the second part of the list are the 10 random numbers with normal distribution. So this is how the if-else statements works. Now let me tell you a word of caution. So far we have used if statement followed by a condition and a code within the braces. Now be mindful to the fact that this condition will render a single logical value. That means if this condition is executed, it will give me either true or false, but it will be a single logical value. Now, incidentally, if your condition consists of vector of logicals, then the statement will throw the error. In this small example, as you can see, here the if statement condition has the vector of logicals, and it has shown me an error that the condition has length greater than 1. Now in this case, the if statement will only check the first element of the vector. That means in this case, the if statement will only check this false condition, and if the condition is false, then if statement will get executed, but if the condition is true, then if statement won't get executed. And balanced logical values, the if statement will not going to check at all. So these values if statement will not going to check at all. Now here is a unique situation. Suppose I have object X which has the value 5, and object Y which has a series of numbers starting from -5 ending to 5. And in this case, if I want to divide X by Y, but here is the issue. The issue is created by this 0 that you see. If I simply start dividing X by Y, then R will going to show me an error, because the value of this statement when it replaces 0 at the denominator will be infinity. It will be 5 divided by 0, which will render infinity. So in this case, I would like to have an arrangement wherein I will going to simply replace 0 with NA. And if I replace 0 with NA, then R will not going to execute the division with 0. So how we can able to do this? We can able to do this with the help of else if statement. So let's check in R and let's simulate this scenario in R and check how we can able to get the answer. So if I use the if statement with the vector of logical values as a condition, then this is the error that I got. The condition has length 1, more than 1. Now coming back to our example, I am setting x equal to 5 and y from -5 to 5. And then I am testing this condition. As you can see that it has thrown the error. Now I want to check the condition of vectors, and therefore I am using if else as a keyword rather than using if as a keyword. And here I am going to check the condition of y equal to 0. As you can see that it has given me the vector of booleans, and there is one true value which is for y equal to 0 position. Now the same vector I use as a condition statement. So test will be the output of this test will be either true or false depending upon whether y is equal to 0 or not. If test is equal to false, then it is going to execute x divided by y command, and if test equal to true, that means y is equal to 0, then the 0 value will be replaced by any value. Now let's execute this chunk of code and let's see what has happened. Now here you go. As you can see the output, the y, whenever the y is equal to 0 is getting replaced with NA, and all other values are simply the division of x and y. So this is how you can able to execute the condition with multiple Boolean statements. Now let's quickly recap what we have learned in this video. We started with basic if statement. Now having understood the structure of basic if statement, we then use if else statement, in which you can use two conditions. If condition 1 is satisfied, if logic is executed. If condition is not satisfied, then else logic is executed. Then we quickly reviewed how the OR logic looks like. And finally, we saw how we can able to deal with the vector of logical conditions. Remember, if statement condition only renders a single true or false value. However, if the condition has a vector of logical values, then we used if else as a keyword instead of if as a keyword. In the next video, we are going to see the more complicated form of if structure, that is nested if structure. If you like this video, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel Infinity, a channel for data science. You can also click on a bell icon so that you can get the immediate notifications as soon as I post the video on the YouTube. Thank you for watching and take care.